Hi, it's Anna Pacheco, SantaFe101.com. My guest today is Bryan Reedy, and he is from Deming. He's in the Deming area, and he's got Boogie's Brewery and Distillery. Bryan, do I have your permission to record this interview?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. So I know we're all, and I know when I called you, I mentioned this, we're just now starting to maybe see the light at the end of the tunnel because of the COVID pandemic. But so we'll talk a little bit about, let's talk about how you got started in the business, where you're from, why you chose Deming, and, we'll just to give people an idea if they're thinking of moving to New Mexico, how you as an entrepreneur have been successful and maybe things to avoid, and so good. So teach us all about your business.
Okay. Well, kind of my background, I was born and raised here in Deming. I graduated, joined the military. When I left, I said I'd never come back, and here I am. It's a great community. I raised my son here. I think it's amazing. It's just the right size. It's a smaller town, but it has access to everything you need.
And I just want to say something. Let me interrupt you real quickly. Santa Fe is my hometown, and I left here in 1976. I was gone for 16 years. I lived in New York City, and I was never going to ever come back to Santa Fe. And I raised my children here. It's the perfect thing. So I'm hearing my story as you're saying that.
So, it's the same exact thing. Exactly.
So I guess the rule of the thumb here is never say never. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to let you know that I had the similar experience. So when did you get back to Deming? What year was it?
2005.
2005. So, and you were gone for how many years?
Just 5 years.
5 years. And so in that 5 years, so at the turn of the century, at the beginning of 2000 till 2005, did you see a big difference when you got back? Was it starting to change? Has it changed for you? I mean, I know for me, the Santa Fe I grew up in, it's unrecognizable. I mean, this is not the town I grew up in. So tell me your experience.
It definitely changed. And so I come from, my father's a home builder. And so I come from that construction background. That's actually why I moved back. I moved back to start building houses with him during that boom. At the time where he was building houses, when I left, there was no houses. And when I came back, there was over 100 of them, and so it really boomed and just blew up quite a bit, even in a small town like Deming. There wasn't too many changes as far as, the Dairy Queen was always there. The McDonald's was always there. The usual places were always in their same spots. Museums didn't change, but I got back and worked in the housing industry and did that for about 4 years, maybe 5 years, right around then. At that time, I left and opened a brewery here in downtown Denver.
And so why did you have an interest in getting into the spirits industry? What led you to that area?
It's so I had my brewery before that, and I had it for about 5 years. And so reopening my new place, I don't want to say it's not a challenge. It's always a challenge. But it was a new challenge.
So where was the first brewery? What year was that? So you did construction for 4 years. When did the brewery happen?
That was in 2009.
Okay.
So between 2009 and 2014, I had the brewery.
Right.
After we closed the brewery, I left that, and I worked for a local hardware store, and then I worked for the local city of Deming. I left the city in 2018 to open what I'm doing now, as far as the brewery distillery. And
so why were you interested in the spirit industry, in making beer and other spirits? What led you to that field?
Interestingly enough, in all reality, I was opening up more of a restaurant with the beer aspect of it. Before the laws have changed quite a bit from 2009 till now, whereas before, I could only have beer and wine. And even then I had to have like a wine license as well on top of the beer license to produce it. It was different from the restaurant licenses that they have in the state. And so I was kind of doing it to almost open like a bar, a pub type of place without the big price tag. The price tag of licenses back then was 250,000. Now they're upwards of 750,000. And so it was just, in all honesty, it was kind of a side door to that, getting into it. As I got into the industry, it's amazing the camaraderie that all the brewers have for each other. There's a such thing as competition. There's no such thing as bad competition.
Well, let me ask you, because about the liquor license, because we just ended, it's now, today is April the 8th. We just recently ended our 2-month, our 60-day New Mexico legislative session. And I know they were talking about liquor license, and they were saying things like, and forget about the pandemic, because that also affected everybody, but it was like very archaic rules. Like they're trying to like give more people in the state liquor license now, but people are saying, the people that have had them forever said, I paid $750,000. It's gonna lessen the price of my liquor license. So for people that might be watching this, they should tell us a little bit about that experience, because that might be something, it might discourage people from even thinking about that. I mean, how you get around it, the high cost, if it's changing. Can you speak to that for a few minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. The high cost of the liquor licenses are definitely a deterrent. And it's specifically a deterrent in your smaller communities. You're looking at, let's just throw a number of $500,000. $500,000 for a piece of paper that says you can sell liquor. It's going to take a while for you to get your money back on that in a smaller community. Or larger community, obviously, you're going to get more volume. You're going to be able to make up for it a little better. So all these licenses slowly channel to where you can make money with it. Whereas with the new laws that they just changed, the new bills that they introduced this last legislative session, it has definitely changed for the better for people in my industry, on my side of the industry. Not the.
So what is the law now? What are the new laws?
So they're allowing for example, if it's a restaurant that had a beer and wine license, they were always restrictive to liquor. They never were allowed liquor at all. Whereas now they have what they call type A, and then now they have a type B license. And the type B license allows them to serve liquor as long as they pay, and I believe it's $10,000 a year for that liquor license. But then on top of that, if they currently have a beer and wine license, they're allowing them to only spend $500 to serve New Mexico spirits instead. So that's definitely helped out our smaller distilleries in the state. There's not too many of us. I'm guessing 12 of us in the whole state. And so that's really helped out our industry in that aspect, because you look at a restaurant that maybe just wants to have whiskey or even, for example, margaritas. They can't, in the past, they couldn't have margaritas because they couldn't have tequila. Now they can have tequila, and at a reduced price, they can get it for, say, an agave spirit from us. Because it's hard for us to actually do tequila, but an agave spirit, which is very similar, from us, it only costs them $500 a year, not $10,000 a year.
And what's going to happen to all those people that have paid all that money, that's serious, those big bucks for those licenses? Well, I mean, that they're kind of like at a disadvantage, or it's kind of hard for them now, don't you think? I mean, they paid all that money.
Absolutely. And in the past, they've been trying to do something like this for a while, and it's just never got anywhere. And it's not just the liquor industry that's against it, and these, for example, one of the convenience stores, they own like 29 licenses. So when you think about, they're all worth between 500 to 700,000, and now all of a sudden you can get, I think you can get up to $200,000 in tax credits for the next 4 years to make up for it.
Yeah, so basically the value's been diminished. And for people that might be watching this now, and this is just, and we're going to talk more about your business now, but people that might be watching this, they just also passed a law where, well, 2 laws, I think, and now those little miniature bottles of hard liquor are no longer, you can't buy those in the state of New Mexico. But what they did pass is that you can have liquor delivered to you now. Yes. And I wonder about that. I don't know if that's going to help bring down the DWI, the driving while intoxicated rates, or if that'll help, or if that's going to, I'm just curious, but that's interesting that they actually passed that law this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I know it doesn't, the little shooters is what they call them, the little 3 ounces or less. It doesn't necessarily, sorry about that. It doesn't affect me, but it affects obviously all those convenience stores. They in all reality, they go through a lot of those.
And I
So-
think the reasoning for that is they thought that people that stop and buy those at convenience stores, it's very easy just to lock them back while you're driving. I think that's the reasoning, right?
Yeah, toss it in your drink and keep going, and so, but what was the other part of that question? I'm sorry.
Well, just in terms of, we were just talking how it affects your business, like now that they can, like if you wanted to now, I mean, and I'm not saying that it happened, but if somebody like called you up and said, hey, I'd like to get a couple of, jugs or whatever of whatever, and, maybe some agave spirits, would you then be able to, you could have a company or you would have delivery people, they could then take it to people? So that.
Yeah. So we're still kind of waiting for some more clarification on that. I think a lot of it is right now it allows like beer and wine licenses, restaurants to serve with a minimum food order of $10. And then they put a cap on, you can't buy more than I think a 6-pack or a growler of beer, a bottle of wine, and I'm sure just a bottle of spirits. I'm not sure. I don't even know if spirits is allowed in the delivery. I think it's just beer and wine is what it's.
So in the past, if somebody rang you up, you'd say, I'm sorry, we can sell you the food and deliver it, but we cannot sell you the beer. Is that how it was in the past?
Correct. And you can't even do alcohol curbside. If you had the ability to sell package, they'd still have to come in to get it and go.
I see. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So things are changing in New Mexico I don't know if it's for the better, but at least things are starting to move in a different direction. So you said you make agave spirits. I actually use an agave sweetener for my ginger tea. So I know what agave is. It's from the cactus plant. But so it's that same agave you can make like it's a spirit. It's like a tequila.
Yeah. And we're actually just working on that. We actually don't have that out yet. Right now we have a rum, we have a coconut rum. And then we have a cream liqueur, which is similar to like a Bailey's type.
And so do you know, what does it taste? Does it taste similar to a tequila?
Yeah, it's got the same characteristics.
And in terms of what's the percentage of alcohol in it?
They're generally between 40 and 45%.
And is that the average? That's for any?
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so because you're making these spirits in New Mexico, you get like another tax incentive or something?
Not that I'm aware of. There's not really much tax incentive. There's
something you get a cheap. Didn't you just say something about if you make the spirits in locally, you get a different license? Something you said.
Yeah, it's just a different license. So for example, our license at our tasting room, we have beer, we have wine, we have spirits from other breweries, wineries, and distilleries in New Mexico. So we don't have like Jack Daniels or Crown Royal or Bud Light or Coors Light. We don't have those. We only have New Mexico made products, and that's part of the license that keeps you. I guess you could say keeps you from spending your money locally.
And so that's a way to encourage people to support these locally owned New Mexico businesses.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's the craft industry itself. Specifically the beer side, the spirit side is still a little slow, but the beer side has still been growing for the last 20 years. It's grown. Even throughout this last year, it still grew, even though there was.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be, you'll probably know better than I, but I think that Santa Fe Brewing Company is the oldest brewery in New Mexico. I know it isn't Santa Fe, but do you know for a fact?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they've been around the longest.
They've been around the longest. And I know, I have my kids are in their 20s, so they're into all this breweries, this stuff. And so that's definitely a growing industry. So let's talk about the different types of beers that you sell there.
Right now, so we haven't actually started making our own beer. Main reason is when we start making beer, we've got a larger system. So we'll be making, or the smallest amount we could make is 30 kegs at a time. Because of what's going on with the pandemic, and there's not a whole lot of places serving draft beer, that we're going to lose a lot to spoilage. And so we just decided, let's hold off on the beer. Let's stick with the spirits for now. When things start to open up, we'll go ahead and bounce back to the beer. Right now, we just have beer from New Mexico. So we actually have one from Santa Fe Brewery. We have the Pepe Loco, which is like a It's a Mexican lager like Dos Equis. We keep a variety of beers. I keep looking up because I'm looking up at the beers, but we keep a variety of them. We have 8 on tap, and then we're expanding our taps to about 20 on tap.
And who's your primary market? Is it local people, or I know tourism is starting to really take off in Deming. Do you get a lot of tourists there, or who would be your main market?
We haven't got a lot of tourists. We opened up our tasting room in September, so travel hasn't exactly been the greatest since then, just with the pandemic and everything going on. So we get a lot of local, almost 99% of our patrons are local. And so it's been a great turnout. Throughout the pandemic, the state has allowed breweries, wineries, and distilleries a little bit more leeway than say the restaurants. So for a restaurant to be open and serve alcohol, for example, they still have to serve food, but they were limited in whether it was inside or outside. They didn't give us the food requirement. They just said, you guys can be open, same as restaurants. So,
and how do people, again, let's forget about the pandemic, because we're all operating under different rules. And I mean, it's different circumstances for all of us now during this pandemic, but how do people, I mean, in terms of like advertising and marketing, and I know you're younger, so it is do you do a lot of your marketing through social media, or how do people hear about your business? Again, but don't forget, let's pretend we're not in the pandemic, because it's always going to be different. Okay.
The vast majority of our promotions and advertising is through social media, both through Facebook, Instagram. We're starting up YouTube so we can start doing our own videos. We have all those other accounts. I'll be honest, it's hard to keep up. There's so many of them. And so we don't have a dedicated marketing person. So a lot of that falls on myself, or falls on my girlfriend, and we're just chasing our tails, just trying to get it done. There's not a whole lot. The nice thing about social media is you can track your marketing. You know exactly where it went to, you know who responded to it, who saw it. There's other outlets where I'll use a billboard, for example. You put a billboard up, you don't know how effective that billboard was. Other than you can judge it off of your sales and things of that sort. But as far as directly seeing how effective it was, social media is great for that.
And I think because, again, given your demographic, it's going to be people about your younger people, like my children's age, and they're all glued to social media. And so you're right. Maybe like the old time, maybe like me, an old timer, maybe I'd see a billboard. Maybe that would have resonated with me. But for sure, because your demographic, and for the most part, maybe I could be wrong, but I'm thinking probably a lot of older people still probably stick with the traditional, whatever beers they drank growing up or something. I don't know if they're as adventurous as the younger people that are willing to try all the different spirits, types of beer and spirits. So in Deming, are you the only brewery and spirit business right now?
So yes. So there is another tasting room that's in town. We actually work closely with them, making products for them. They're making products for us. We're kind of going back and forth with each other. Generally, if we feel like we're stepping on each other's toes, we talk to each other and find out, are you okay with this? And it's been a great relationship. At the same time, we have the state's largest winery here. And then we have Luna Rosa Winery. So that's St. Clair Winery or DH.
And they actually have vineyards around there too. I mean, aren't the grapes kind of grown in proximity to the actual wineries themselves right there?
Yeah, so Deming, Luna County is known for our chili a lot. We do make, even though Hatch has the title of the chili capital of the world, we actually make more green chili than they do. But the other thing that people don't know is we produce the most grapes in the state. So the other winery, Luna Rosa Winery, they're more of a grape grower than a wine producer. I think every winery in the state buys grapes from them. Like they're pretty big in that aspect. So we've already got the wine culture here. The beer culture is coming around. The spirits is going to take a little while. But in the 6-7 months that we've been open, most bars sell beer. Like beer is the majority seller, and over 50% of our sales are liquor. So the liquor is moving in our area. A lot of that is we bring in traditional classic cocktails and the the good looking drinks, the fancy drinks, people like to get those, and so we brought those back, which nobody else around is doing that either.
And what's your best seller?
Oh goodness, on the spirit side,
Yeah.
Our cream liqueur is definitely the biggest seller.
That sounds like a lady's drink to me.
It is, and it's a cream base. It's rum, and then it's a cream base. So it's similar to a Bailey's, not as chocolatey as a Bailey's. And there's so many drinks, so many variations that you can go off of that. It's a huge hit. I can't keep it on the shelf. I haven't even been able to. We want to start distributing, and I haven't even been able to keep it on our shelf.
And what's it called? What is the name of it?
It's a cream liqueur. So
it's cream liqueur. Is it called Boogie's Cream Liqueur? Does it have a name or?
Yeah, well, Boogie's is the label.
Boogie's is the label. Well, if you ever start making cream liqueur ice cream, let me know, because I'm a real ice cream nut here. So, we're out of time here. So if anybody's watching, like an entrepreneur, because people want to move to New Mexico, a lot of them want to start their own business. In your opinion, you're from Deming, you're a younger fellow, you're an entrepreneur. What are some of the areas that people should look that you think that could really make a go of it in Deming? Again, let's not think about the pandemic.
Right. Well, and when you talk about areas, as far as opening a business in Deming, our cost of living here is, if it's not the lowest in the state, it's got to be close. The cost of living is super low. We're in a global world right now. So I bought some tarps yesterday, and they came somewhere out of Kentucky somewhere. I didn't care where they came from. I just cared that I got them. Simple things like that. We're right on the interstate. It's easy to open up a business at a low cost. We're talking, I'm opening up an entire brewery and distillery for less than $300,000.
For less than 300,000. And what is that background noise? What is going on there? Is that machinery being moved in, or what's going on?
Those are my guys working back there. So they're moving some stuff around.
And so good. But any type of business, and I know we're done with time, but should people think about a food-based business? We don't want any more spirits or brewery, because we want you to succeed first. But would there be like a delivery business where people can start delivering for people? Because I don't know if you're big enough. Do you have Uber and Lyft there, or could somebody start like a little delivery, an app-based business there?
We actually are just under the size for Uber and Lyft. They just don't do well here. We did just get DoorDash recently, and so that's being used. I think with the third party delivery stuff, that may take off pretty good. I don't know. To me, that was put into play more for the pandemic rather than moving forward with stuff. And I don't know how that's going to play moving forward. But food-based stuff, food trucks. If you go outside of New Mexico right now, there's food trucks everywhere. And Albuquerque, Las Cruces, Santa Fe, they seem to be catching up on the food truck revolution, I guess you could say. Whereas like Deming, we don't have food ourselves, and we offer food trucks to come out here for free. We don't even charge them, and they could get hundreds of customers over the weekend. And it's hard to find anybody because there's just not that many food trucks out there.
And they don't drive up from Las Cruces. You're not that far from Las Cruces.
Yeah, but most food trucks that you see are older style food trucks. They don't want to put those miles on it. And so,
I guess the one thing I want to say about Santa Fe, because you're right, we have a lot of food trucks now, but if anybody's watching this, please think about unique and diversified. Everybody's really hip to eating all kinds of food now, and we seem to have, because we are New Mexico, and it's fine, but we're saturated with New Mexican cuisine and Mexican cuisine, which is wonderful. But I think to diversify, like kind of like your spirits room, have a Greek or barbecue or something, because people want to eat different things. Then you would get the local people, because everybody, I was telling somebody this morning, I am sick of New Mexico food just because it's my hometown. I like it, but I don't want to eat it all the time. So I think in terms of food trucks, wouldn't it be neat if somebody had like like a Thai restaurant, Thai food truck, or dim sum or something, or even barbecue. And we don't have enough barbecue in this state. That would be
Yeah.
one of my things. So.
And the advantages of the food trucks is you can go where the people are. You don't have to worry about trying to get the people to come to you.
Exactly. And I know that I've already had Debbie Troyer. She was excellent. She actually referred me to you from the chamber. And she tells me that, again, without, the pandemic aside, all these different events happen throughout the year in Deming. And so what an opportune time, to have that. And you do have, if I'm not mistaken, you have a new industrial park. More businesses are moving. You could have food trucks near that park. I mean, there'd be places in addition to like these festivals throughout the year where people could make a go of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, the biggest advantage business-wise is the startup costs are the cheapest around.
Incredibly low, and younger people, and you get people out there. Well, is there anything we have gone over on this interview? Is there anything you want to end with?
No, not really. I mean, I said in reference to Deming, it is a really good community to be around. We are the lowest income community, so we are the poorest. But at the same time, I've lived in 13 different places and I can't tell the difference. Granted, yes, I'm sure there is a shortage of money here, but you can't tell. People are still out spending money. People still.
Well, I tell you, I've had some good interviews out of Deming. I kind of think it's like the next Tucson or something. It's got a lot of potential, and
It does.
and you want to be. I think if somebody's moving here, you want it. It's kind of like what Santa Fe was in the '60s. You want to be in a place before it gets discovered. Once you're discovered, it's all bets are off because everybody's trying to be there. If you can find these little gems, these hidden gems in New Mexico, and be there first. I mean, aren't you lucky for that? Listen, I want to thank you again, Bryan Reedy, Boogie's Brewery in Deming, New Mexico. I thank you so much for this interview.
All right, cool. Thank you, Anna.
Take care.